All right, so here's a live. Stop it. Here's I guess another live clip we're doing here, and you haven't heard. Today is my sister's birthday. Happy birthday, sister! Literally, it's her birthday today. Happy birthday, sister! But also, it is also Julian Assange's birthday, and a lot of people you've probably seen people all day doing protests and uh, gatherings, people talking with each other, trying to talk to random strangers to inform them about what's happening, right? And a lot of it seems to come back to like, well, for me personally, my first thought is like you are violating this other human. But I also understand the other arguments, which I would throw in too, which is about press freedom, right? And one of the extradition charges on Assange was from this Icelandic guy, a jolly good chap, and but what we found out recently is that this guy was full of shit and lying, and some other darker things. What we're gonna do? We're gonna go through docket democracy now. Forgive me. Just they had Assange's lawyer on there, and it wasn't like a foreign language one. So yeah. So this is the video from Democracy Now. Attorney U.S. case against Julian Assange falls apart as key witness says he lied to get immunity. And here we go.
We turn now to a major development in the case of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, who the U.S. State Department is pushing to extradite from Britain. Assange faces up to 175 years in prison if brought to the United States, where he's been indicted for violations of the Espionage Act related to the publication of classified documents, which many say expose U.S. war crimes. Now, one of the main witnesses in that extradition case has come forward to admit he made false claims against Assange for exchange in immunity from prosecution. The revelation came in an interview with the convicted Icelandic hacker, Sigurdur Thordarson, for a detailed article published by the Icelandic biweekly Stundin. It suggests the U.S. Justice Department collaborated with Thordarson to generate the indictment for Assange that was submitted to the British courts. U.S. prosecutors.
Now, real quick, the first thing when I saw this guy, please do not be offended if you're like his twin brother and you never did anything wrong. Or if you look like him at all. Please don't be offended. But I look at this guy and it made me think.
He'll find him and make him squeal. I know the squealers when I see them. And
what do you propose?
And then later in the video, I find out he was like charged with whatever sexual assault of minors. Forgive me once again. Forgive me. But let's continue.
Prosecutors issued a new superseding indictment against Assange in June 2020 that refers to Thordarson as a teenager and Iceland as NATO country one, and says Assange encouraged him to, among other things, quote, commit computer intrusion and steal audio recordings of phone conversations between Icelandic officials. The Stundin.
Also, just so we know, like the main one, like I believe it was. The main one was the Chelsea Manning thing, right? And then they started trumping up other charges on top of it, as they already had him held, right? They already took him out of the Ecuadorian embassy and all that. Then they went back through his fucking apartment, or through the embassy, and then started drumming up new charges on him, right? To add on top of it. In fact, they waited for the last day before you could do that, which is very creepy. Like very like psychopathic lawyer creepy type shit. Just saying. But I believe the U.S. is alleging that Assange basically showed Chelsea Manning how to get into the system in order to get the documents, in order to send them to WikiLeaks. But what I heard is that Chelsea Manning already had access to these things, and Assange was trying to help her protect herself, meaning like protect her name, protect like how like so that she's not exposed while she's trying to do this or that, right? To get those documents and the video footage and all that. So even the original big bad charge is like shaky as fuck. And now that this case is, or the Icelandic guy, this guy's fucking full of shit. Just saying. Let's keep playing this.
Article cites previously unpublished documents and chat logs showing how Thordarson falsely presented himself as a prominent WikiLeaks representative.
Hey, Mariana.
Sendin reports that, in fact, quote, all indications are that Thordarson was acting alone without any authorization, let alone urging from anyone inside WikiLeaks, unquote. For more, we're joined by Jennifer Robinson, human rights attorney who's been advising Julian Assange and WikiLeaks since 2010. She, like Julian Assange, is an Australian citizen. She joins us from Western Australia. Jen, welcome back to Democracy Now! Can you lay out the significance of this latest revelation and what it should mean, you feel, for Julian Assange?
This is just the latest revelation of how problematic the United States case is against Julian Assange, and in fact baseless. Of course, as you outlined at the introduction, the evidence from Thordarson that was given to the United States and formed the basis of the second superseding indictment, including allegations of hacking, has now been, on his own admission, demonstrated to have been fabricated. Not only did he misrepresent his access to Julian Assange and to WikiLeaks and his association with Julian Assange, he has now admitted that he made up and falsely misrepresented to the United States that there was any association with WikiLeaks and any association with hacking. So this is just the latest revelation to demonstrate why the US case should be dropped.
Now, real quick, just dumb guy logic, just bring that into the room. As soon as you find out that this allegation is so shaky, obviously, like, forget shaky. It's like completely discredited now, all the way down to the core of it. It's like that has to make you wonder about the other allegations, right? Just dumb guy logic would think that, right? Like, oh fuck, we should re-investigate these other fucking claims. But I think we already understand that the U.S. government that's going after Assange, and other countries too, who are helping the U.S. with this, I think we can clearly see, like, their intentions might not to be, like, to truly investigate something or truly find the truth of what's happening here or what happened, right? I think if Assange was in his kitchen, slipped on a banana, all right, let me say it. Assange is in his kitchen, he has a butter knife, he's about to put some butter on some bread, pause. He slips on a banana peel and stabs his dog. You're like, animal murderer, we need to extradite him to, like, they will take anything. There's not any type of real investigation. Forget about the shit that, like, me and James try to do as far as, like, assessing a person, their motives, why they're doing something, all that shit. Strictly, like, the on-the-surface law shit, they're not even trying to bother with. They're trying to skirt around that shit to get this guy brought back to the U.S. to fuck with him. To fuck with all of us, I would say. What's up, Captain Obvious? Yes, that's right. Captain Obvious is here. We go live like every Wednesday and Saturday, just so you know. Hey, I think Trump's going to get a shout out in here, Dubster. You might like it. Here we go.
Revelation to demonstrate why the US case should be dropped. We have to begin, of course, with the free speech implications. Free speech groups, the Washington Post, the New York Times, mainstream media are unanimously against and have denounced this prosecution as a threat to freedom of speech in the United States. But leaving that aside, the factual basis for this case has completely fallen apart. And we have been calling for this case to be dropped for a very long time. And this is just the latest form of abuse demonstrated in this case that shows why it ought to be dropped.
Now, she's doing the lawyer thing because she's a lawyer for him, right? She's being very correct with her, like, very lawfully correct with her language and all that shit, right? But people that have paid attention to this story, they already, like, mentally debunked it a while ago. As far as the charges they're trying to bring against them and all that shit, they already debunked it within their own minds, right? So they're like, fuck this, they're lying just to get this guy. But she has to be a lawyer about it. Let's be real. Right? I know I make fun of Jimmy Dore for lawyering up everywhere he goes, but I was like, dude, you're supposed to be some jack-off comedian. What's with this lawyer shit you spout everywhere? What's this? You just trying to protect yourself? She's trying to lawfully protect him, so I understand why she's doing that here. Now, in fact, if I could talk to this girl, I would advise that as well. But she already knows that, I'm very sure. All right, here we go.
Jen Robinson, why do you believe Thordarson came forward now? He not only granted this exclusive interview to the Icelandic paper Stunden, but he also turned over never published before chat logs and new documents of his time as a WikiLeaks volunteer. And talk about his actual prominence within the organization or lack of it.
That's like David Seaman thing. He worked for the Huffington Post. Meanwhile, he did this, like, just wrote an article that anyone can submit to Huffington Post, and they just post it on their website somewhere. I worked for the Huffington Post. They tried to get rid of me because my information's dangerous because I'm correct. Now follow me. We're going to Pizzagate. We're going to Pizzagate. And then he grifted all those fucking people into giving him a shit ton of money. All right, here we go.
I can only speculate as to why he would choose to come forward now. But of course, as you know,
I hope it was his conscience. I hope.
The judge decided to refuse Julian Assange's extradition to the United States.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not on free speech grounds, but on
we're supposed to wish him
humanitarian
dead,
grounds associated with his mental health and the oppressive prison conditions that he would face if returned to the United States. The United States, under the Trump administration, sought to appeal that decision, and we are still awaiting a decision from the British court as to whether permission to appeal will be granted. Pending that decision, Julian remains in prison in the United States. So this is just another indication. We have been calling for this case to be dropped. We have been asking the Biden administration to drop the appeal and allow Julian to return home to his family. And I think this latest revelation will only contribute to that appeal to the Biden administration to put an end to this case. So perhaps he was motivated on those grounds, but it's hard to say.
So real quick, the thing she brought up about Trump, it's like a lot of people were telling me that Trump was it wasn't Trump that was doing this. It was his Department of Justice doing it. Those guys were the ones doing it, not Trump. And then, right, someone asked Trump about it, and he said that same answer, I believe. He said, the Department of Justice, they do their thing. That's them. That's what they do. It's their thing. But then you're hearing about the U.S. Department of Justice reappealing for this case, right? So it's like, okay, maybe he didn't know in the beginning. Then someone asked him the question, so that means he knows now. And then they re-upped. So logic, sorry, there's no logical answer for that other than Trump is in on it with them of trying to get Assange extradited. Huh? Complacent. Oh, he's aware of it and gives zero fucks about it or whatever. Logic's probably saying, like, he's okay with getting him based on past quotes we've heard from him. They should all get the death penalty. All of them. Let's continue.
And then can you talk about Icelandic officials who are now apparently speaking out and saying that the U.S. government is, quote, trying to use things here in Iceland and use people in our country to spin a cobweb that would catch Julian Assange. The article also reports U.S. government essentially deceived Icelandic officials.
because they're inferior. Fuck Iceland. They're ours. We do whatever the fuck we want. We're the U.S. Eat that. Damn.
Again, this is demonstrating the significant and problematic abuse that we've seen throughout this case. Not only are we looking at problematic evidence gathering within Iceland, which Icelandic officials have questioned the legality of, let's look at the other forms of abuse we've seen in this case. As we put in the extradition hearing, we now know that Julian has been unlawfully spied upon, his doctor's meetings unlawfully spied upon, us as his legal team unlawfully spied upon. He's had legally privileged materials seized by the United States government. As Daniel Ellsberg said in his evidence before the extradition court in the UK, this kind of abusive conduct by the United States was sufficient back during the Nixon administration to have the entire case against Daniel Ellsberg thrown out for an abusive process. But in 2021, we are seeing unlawful spying, seizure of legally privileged material, and now a source which admits that he fabricated evidence and lied to the FBI and to the United States about the evidence upon which this indictment is based. This should be more than enough for the United States and for the Biden administration to put this case to rest. It has gone on.
See, once again, I think she's doing the lawyer thing, which I believe should be the thing you do in this case, right? But at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, Biden's a fucking criminal. Like, if she was just speaking, like, blatantly honest, like Wonder Woman's lasso of truth, that little shithead, Biden, better fucking let him go. He's got nothing on him. Your whole case is floppy as fuck. You gotta let him go. We're gonna try to make you look bad throughout this entire process. I think she might say something similar, something like that. Gotta be a pro. She's gotta be professional. Here we go.
Admits that he fabricated evidence and lied to the FBI and to the United States about the evidence upon which this indictment is based. This should be more than enough for the United States and for the Biden administration to put this case to rest. It has gone on far too long.
You also have this.
By the way, I bet she. If I had to guess, I bet she believes that. I bet she believes that the FBI knew that guy was lying and didn't care. Kept going with it anyways, or had an idea that this guy's full of shit. And just like, fuck it, we'll take it. Whatever we can use. If you watch this entire process of this, from like him and from the charges in Sweden, right, to leading to Ecuador, right, and how they got into the embassy, like all of it has been like little nudges of things to get to like, can we find more evidence to make him look bad? Can we find more? Can we find more? Right? We hold out for a certain amount of time just to wait for that deadline to try and re-up some charges, so then we can go back into the fucking building and fuck with it. It's fucking, oh my god. Luckily, Julian seems to be like, either him or the people he works with or someone or a collective, like, they're fucking strategically brilliant people. It's hard for me to deny that. Like, they have no cold-blooded fucking thing on this fight, like anything like that, right? Not saying he did anything wrong. I'm just saying, something where they make like a sloppy mistake, and then like the fucking U.S. is like, yes, there it is. They're pretty strategically brilliant, man. Ask me. I mean, have like sources even been leaked at all or anything like that? All right. So, what's up, Jason Murphy? All right, here we go.
Situation where Sigurdur Thordarson has been convicted of sexual abuse of minors and other crimes, including financial fraud. In the interview, he admitted to continuing his crime spree while working with the DOJ and the FBI.
He kept going with the sexual harassment of minors and the fraud and all that shit. He kept it going. Now it's like, in like what's up, Cat 83? And in like my dumb guy logic mind, I'm looking at this and I'm like, why would this guy do this? Why would he do this? Why would he be talking to the FBI to say Julian did this or that, or WikiLeaks did this or that? Doesn't make any, like, if he's like a guy who's like a fraud and I guess tries to party with young girls and shit like that. If he's into shit like that, why would he go out of his way to associate himself with WikiLeaks in order to frame Julian? That doesn't make much sense. Unless, he'd be getting paid to do this, or maybe we'll look past these other crimes of you fucking with little girls and shit. I don't want to say little girls because it could be like 16 or 17 or something, minors. So it's like, almost like that guy has help or something, or was motivated or pushed by someone else to get him to say these things, to straight up lie by his own words, lie about it. Guess what? That could have been the only thing. Imagine that. Forget about the Chelsea Manning thing. What if this Icelandic guy, this shit, was the only thing they brought up, right? Before he was taken out of the Ecuadorian embassy. What if that was the only thing brought up? This Icelandic dude and his made-up story. They could have used that as an excuse to get into the embassy and then start adding all these other charges onto him. Just like the Sweden thing. The girl, the rape case or whatever the fuck they called it. Sexual assault, whatever. So, this is how creepy works. Here we go.
What's crucial to understand about his involvement with the U.S. government in trying to get Julian Assange extradited?
Maybe they were threatening him over the underage stuff?
175 years in prison.
But they would... Maybe. That's a good point, Jason. That's a good point. But like, why'd they pick him though? He was a volunteer or something, right? He wasn't like in WikiLeaks. There's so many fucking WikiLeaks like volunteer type people. So it's like, how many of them have fucking shady things going on in their lives? It was like, why is he like? Yeah, but it's all right. Here we go.
Well, I do think it's significant that the initial indictment for Julian Assange related only to the publications back in 2010, 2011, the Chelsea Manning publications. It was the second superseding indictment introduced by the Trump administration, which was based upon Thordarson's evidence. Now, any lawyer and even any layperson would be looking at evidence from a convicted felon who had been convicted of forgery, fraud, and sexual abuse allegations associated with minors. That is a problematic source. Now we have him admitting that he lied to the FBI about that evidence. This raises serious concerns about the integrity of this investigation and the integrity of this criminal prosecution, and serious questions ought to be being asked within the Department of Justice about this prosecution and the fact that it is continuing at all.
So what are you demanding?
So, yeah, she's being a lawyer because she has to be a lawyer. Right? What she really wants to say is like, they knew this guy was shady. They went for it anyways because, like, oh, we can get him, fuck with him even more. What'd you say? What did Amy Gooden say yet? That was like 175 years in prison with all the charges added up? Like, huh. So I think she's like, yeah, these guys are, not only is the witness guy shady, but also the people that use his information might be extra shady. Believe it or not. All right, here we go.
Ending right now, Jen Robinson.
We have been asking for a very long time for the Biden administration and the Department of Justice to put an end to this case on principled free speech grounds and on due process grounds. And this is just the latest evidence to show why this case needs to be dropped.
Jen Robinson, I want to thank you for being with us, human rights attorney who's been advising.
Okay, Amy. Jeez. All right, so there you have it. This, I can't even say it's Sigurdur Thordarson, some shit like that. I can't even say his name. Whatever. This dude who's apparently does all this creepy shit somehow gets trusted to be a witness in a case against one of the most famous people on the planet. And then I guess what I suspect will happen from this is the FBI just, whoops. Oh, we made a mistake. Oops. Do we now see why intention is important? Anybody? Right? Who's gonna buy that? That the FBI, like, they just made a mistake. They fucked up. You try to read like, oh, it seems like they purposely did that shit. All right. Yeah, I guess that's it. Freak you, Signor, whatever your name is. And happy birthday to my sister and Julian Assange.